Good morning, guys. So today I want to continue on the kind of series I'm doing, which is about kind of these huge pinnacle moments in my life that kind of set me on a new path that are really concreted in my memory as big life changing moments. The first one I talked about was discovering paleo diet and how that kind of set me on a whole new path in terms of health and taking care of myself and understanding everything was in my control. If you haven't seen that one, check it out. It was 2 videos ago. Today I'm going to talk about going to Shambhala Music Festival, which is a music festival here in Canada, very close to where I live in Salmo. And it was the very first time I ever went to something like this, a festival, a music festival, a camping festival. Um, I think a better name, especially with festivals like Shambhala, they call them transformational festivals. And the reason I say that is because I really believe it, because I lived it. Um, Going into Shambhala, I liked electronic dance music already, but had never heard it live, so I never knew really what it was. Because if you've only heard electronic dance music on the radio or on your phone, but never heard it live, I'd say it's more. Maybe more is the wrong word. It's equally, at least, as contrasted as when you see a live performance versus a recorded song. I almost want to say more. It's like, because I understand a recorded song and then done live, it's still kind of the same music. But obviously, there's the energy of the band or the artist. Electronic dance music is the big difference being you can feel the music, you can feel the bass because you're on speaker systems that are actually pushing out the sound frequencies that really this music's meant to be listened on as opposed to just listening in your ears from headphones or whatever. It's not the same experience. Anyways, so I'd never been to a festival, but went in super open minded, super curious, super excited to start letting go a little bit of kind of the shields and the masks we wear and really just embrace kind of the culture of Shambhala, which is free expression and kind of boiled down into a little nugget. I even had my costumes figured out and purchased before I had my ticket. I had done a lot of research in terms of just like watching videos, talking to people, trying to figure out what it was. One of the things I enjoyed the most, especially at the beginning, and was part of this unlocking process that ultimately led to a week of transformation for me, was again the costumes. Was that going into it, I already knew Shambhala was a place where you could be anything, dress any way, and this is part of part of the culture, part of the experience. And they have some of these like built-in things, so like Tutu Tuesday and Wednesday, and I forget some of the other ones, but Tuesday is the day that you can go in early. It was like the original pre-early day, and there was kind of a culture behind that as well. And so um, I went on Tuesday in a tutu, and as nerve-wracking as it was, and like dealing with all the whatever the perceived judgment and the insecurities and the confidence and all of that, still just rocked it. I had a blue tutu. It's kind of almost more like a skirt tutu thing, and then a blue magic wand, I think. And I think I made cookies or something. And I remember on Tuesday, everyone's lined up on the highway, at least at that point. And I think I was just going out and giving cookies because, again, I had known from researching and talking to people, another big part of Shambhala is just gifting. Um, so yeah, so I go into this music festival, and there's so much, but to not make this an hour long video, I'm gonna try to like highlight it. Um, Go in, again, not knowing what to expect, not having expectations really, just trying to go in and just be a contributor and be part of it, not be an active participant and not just a watcher. I had read that somewhere, either before or after. It was either Shambhala or Burning Man, I think, but it's something along the lines of where they're asking everyone to show up instead of showing up like you bought a ticket and you expect to be entertained. It's like, no, show up as the entertainment. It's like these festivals are built because everyone is there contributing, whether you're DJing or putting on a big art camp or theme or production or whatever, or if you're just, coming as a person and gifting a little bit or hugging strangers or just like being yourself and having great conversation. um, it's like just being active as a participant rather than someone demanding to be entertained, because it's like getting away from this culture of like, I bought a ticket, therefore I should receive something. It's like, no, come as a gift, come as yourself, which is a gift, and just participate and see what happens. And there's a certain level of magic to Shambhala. I know it sounds super fluffy and woo woo, but it's like these festivals are just the interesting synchronicities that happen, and just like all the things going on. It's crazy and profound and all life changing. So yeah, go in. I was just curious to just put myself in experiences, try new things, get outside my comfort zone, and ultimately, basically what transpired was I went down with my brother. We ended up meeting two other guys who were good friends who came down together in kind of our camp where we had camped. So we like made friends with neighbors who were strangers, but those strangers eventually turned into friendships that I've had like since then. So 7, 8, 9 years. Some of these people are still friends today. And so we met these two guys who kind of took us under their wing a little bit, because it was both myself and my brother's first time, not only at Shambhala, but first time doing a music festival. So we kind of ended up becoming this really tight 4 unit, this kind of family. And me and my brother got there on Tuesday, but the main nights of Shambhala are Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's kind of when the DJs are, the most action is, it's where kind of everything transpires. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we had met these guys. I don't remember if it was Wednesday or Thursday, but I think even we actually went out on Thursday together, and that kind of started everything. But end up being the 4 of us partying together pretty tightly for the whole time. And through that experience, just had so many, again, there's so much, but had so many perceived notions just evaporate, and just like just getting so outside of what I knew and thought of the world and people and society, and just like all of these boxes that we're kind of taught growing up in like a static culture. You just go to a place like Shambhala and you meet people from all walks of life. Like, I think that's one of the biggest misnomers and judgments people have about festivals, is they think it's just all these hippies, When in reality, like if you go to a festival like Shambhala, guaranteed, literally, you're gonna find someone from every walk of life. Like the like the judgment prevents people from thinking that like so and so or this type of person would never go to a festival. Meanwhile, there's like hundreds of those types of people. That's the beauty of Shambhala is, and maybe not all festivals, but Shambhala I've been to 7 or 8 years now, so I'm really speaking Shambhala. The beauty of it is it's actually such a slice of humanity. Like everyone's there, even people that like I might not want to be there, or like people that I have bad interactions and like people that I might judge. But from like a neutral standpoint, is everyone. It's not just hippies. It's like d bags and like whatever. Again, without casting judgment, it's just it's the it's one of the things I talk about to a lot of people. Why I find, again, I can really only speak Shambhala because I've been it the most, but truly, one of the reasons I love Shambhala the most is because of it's such a diverse segment, or it's like literally everyone's there. Like I kid you not, everyone, every walk of life, you're gonna find somebody represented. It's crazy. Um, so yeah, so you get to just see everyone in like where at home they'd be one person, but then here it's like for the most part everyone's letting their guard down and everyone's just like breathing and easing and again talking to strangers. And one of the things that was great and that I get renewed every year is more and more loving people. You just realize that people are people outside of the container that they wear in their daily lives, the masks they wear, the personas they play. It's like I say Shambhala is like adult Disneyland, where literally it's this magical place where you get to come be a child in the best way, in the way of like you get to play and pretend to be whatever you want and dress up or not wear any clothes, or it's like barring it's like the fundamental rule, like barring the harm or impediment of anyone else doing their thing, everything is a go and it's accepted. Like you get to be as free as you want, and that is both amazing and I think terrifying to many people. Is there is this acceptance of immense freedom, and I think all of us typically just struggle with how far can we push ourselves into that freedom. Like oh shit, the container is wide open. How much am I willing to let myself go, actually? How much am I willing to crack open? Because it's really, again, it's that participation of like how much we allow ourselves to be free, to transform, to have new experiences, to grow, to shed, is really what we get out of it. It is cliche. It's like what you put in, you get out. So it's like at Shambhala, my first year, fortunately, for whatever reason, again, just went in super open-minded, super willing to try new things, super willing to shed layers, get outside myself, be open to new experiences and possibilities, and looking for insights. Like I think with anything, and festivals and Shambhala can also be particularly the same thing. Vacations, like I talk about this concept often, is like, are you going to these things as an escapism to escape your reality, where then you dread coming home because now you have to, it's like you got to go on this vacation, for lack of a better word, outside of yourself, but now you have to go back to your real life? Or are you going to, I say, to be found, instead of to escape, to be found, to learn new things? So like, to me, that's what Shambhala always is I'm going to be found. I'm going to discover new things. I'm not trying to escape my life. I want to go have the break, yes, obviously. Have this experience where I kind of forget about the life at home. But ultimately, I'm not I'm trying to go to learn things, usually about myself, so that when I go back to life, I'm coming back more whole, more educated, more learned, new insights, and then taking those and then applying those into my life. How do I integrate? Um, the biggest thing for me at Shambhala was having this visceral experience where I spent one of the nights, Friday night, so the first of kind of the beginning, um, where my um, personality or predominant energies shifted. So I think in Western society and in North America, so I can only speak particularly because of what I grew up in, I think we do a terrible job at enforcing the fact that whatever physical body you are born into, that also implies you're only that sex energy. So in duality, we talk about masculine and feminine. I think in the Western world, in North America, for the most part, we're raised to believe that if you're male, born into a male body, that you should only do masculine things, and if you're born into a female body, you should only do feminine things. It's like masculine, feminine colors, and like men aren't supposed to be emotional, they're supposed to be tough, and like boys don't cry, and like all, and then whatever the female equivalent are, like girls can't be, I don't know, physical or roughhouse, or like, you know, don't do anything too, like, oh, you could get hurt doing that, so like don't do that. So like we're really conditioned to these singular focused sex, where in actuality there it is dualism. Like there's two, and the whole point is that there should be a balance. And I think that's what we see. Is we see there's a very imbalance, especially masculine, heavily imbalanced. And I think a lot of people, because I am speaking from experience living this, don't feel like a whole person. And I think to um, divert a little bit, I think this shows up in our relationships with our languaging around finding my better half, or like she completes me, he completes me. It's because like we're walking around as like half C's because we're only strong in our half sex energy mask. So it's like we're trying to find relation, and obviously I'm talking heterosexual relationships. I don't know about same-sex relationships, so I'm not even gonna talk about this. But I think this is showing up because again and again, the languaging in our culture of like find your better half or she's my better half is like we think we're halves, and that's the problem, because we've only been conditioned and trained to focus on half, and so we don't feel like whole people. And so that's what happens in relationships, and then you get very dependent relationships because each person is relying on the other to fulfill that other half of themselves, when in reality we're whole people. We have both. We don't need anything outside ourselves. And Shambhala for me was that is I grew up only being masculine, only learning masculine things, learning that I shouldn't be feminine and I shouldn't desire feminine qualities and stuff like that. And I think that led to some issues. I had a lot of anger issues when I was younger. But at Shambhala on Friday night, I had this I spent the whole night in this beautiful state where the masculine side of me, instead of being in the driver's seat, was in the back seat. And the feminine side of me, which I hadn't really ever connected with before, or really even knew until this experience that I was missing, was in the driver's seat. And I spent all night embodying the feminine energy, to what that meant to me in that experience. So it meant submission, it meant following. And again, these aren't bad phrases. I think we're very jaded in a very masculine, alpha led, leader driven society that using words like beta or submission or follower has negative connotation. It doesn't. It's, again, speaking as a person who's lived it and have lived it multiple times in different situations, it is amazing to follow. Like, if you're a leader or if you're not a leader, you might not recognize this, but the amount of energy it takes to be the leader, to constantly be navigating the path, to be looking for the path, to be finding the route, takes a lot of energy. To then be able to step back and to follow someone else without judgment or needing to tell them or have my own ideas on how they should lead, and just to follow, man, is it ever relieving. Is like the amount of energy that I got back anytime I find myself in that situation where I can just follow is profound. It's profound. Like, I like leading. I really enjoy it. I feel called to it. But it's also amazing to just be a follower, to just follow someone else's lead, to let them navigate that path, and to just walk in their footsteps. It's amazing. So I spent the whole night in this state where I was just really connecting with my feminine, my divine feminine energy, and literally transformed my life, because I left that night and I ultimately left Shambhala feeling awakened. It's where it's like I feel like I didn't know I was half a person walking around, and then I left Shambhala a whole person, realizing like, oh shit, this whole other side of me that I've been neglecting because I've been programmed essentially to neglect is in here. And not only is it in here, it's awakened and it's powerful and it's got purpose. And that purpose and that connection, again, just made me feel like a whole person for the first time in my whole life. I was 22. I finally felt like I woke up to being a whole human being for the first time. And since then, it's really shaped who I am. Like, to give a personal example, this is a joke that my partner and I share often, and so happy to share here. And sorry if this offends anyone, but this is just the languaging we use. But we often joke that I'm a lesbian trapped in a man's body, just because how I interact with her and my partnership with her is I tend to skew heavy more on feminine qualities, and she tends to skew heavy a little bit more on masculine qualities, which is unique in some ways, not in others. But I think in the overarching context, it's like we have this balance because we both skew a little bit more opposite, where it's like either of us might not be as compatible with someone who is like, I might not be compatible with someone who is super super feminine, because there might be more conflict, there might be less balanced, and vice versa. And so yeah, it's just, I'm never associated with being a bro or whatever, and it's like a lot of the qualities that I'm cultivating or that I feel called to or that I embody tend to have a lot more femininity to them, and feminine energy. And again, part of that is because it's like I was awakened to that, and I recognize that there is so much more to having both aspects, or having the quality of both, or be able to play and, like, shift in between them. Like, sometimes life does require a little bit more masculine energy, and other times life requires a little bit more feminine energy, and to have both is powerful, as opposed to just thinking that you're stuck in whatever half because of whatever body you were born into. Yeah, so that was hugely transformational. That was kind of the main. There's so much more, but this is going to be I don't want this to again turn into an hour video, so I'm going to end it, wrap it up. But that was one of the main things, and that's why it was a life-changing experience for me, is because literally I went to Shambhala half a person, and I came out of Shambhala a whole person. And ever since then, again, a lot of my actions and decisions are now mapped because I'm a lot more in tune with my feminine energy, and I value feminine qualities in myself, and I'm cultivating more feminine qualities. And there's things I'm attracted to that I want to bring more into my life that would be considered feminine. And pre Shambhala, I would have never thought about that. I would have dismissed all of these things. I would have put them at arm's length. I would have swept them under the rug, ultimately ignoring a part of myself, because all of it is true to me, but I didn't recognize that because I had been trained that these are things that boys shouldn't want or desire or have in their lives. And so, yeah, so that's why Shambhala, ultimately one of the top life transformational experiences I've ever had, because again, I think it really just took me from half a person to a whole person. And it was that deprogramming that set me on a whole new path to then lead me to other experiences. I think without Shambhala, it's funny, these all stack. Like Paleo Shambhala have then ultimately put me on the path that led to some of the future life-changing moments that I'll talk about probably in the next few days. I will leave it at that for today. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.